Hello Phil, why are we here today?
Good morning, Steve. This is the Freedom Field Monument, celebrating or dedicated to the Battle of Freedom Fields, as they call it now, but it was actually the Sabbath Day fight. It falls on December the 3rd, 1643. We're in this park today, the day after the battle. This was Monday morning, the 4th of December, although the calendar's slightly out. This is the actual 7th today. On the 4th of December, it was a day just like today, cold, wet, miserable. What you would have had, the fighting was down the road further, where we were talking just now. Now I'm going to talk about some of the people. On this monument are three names: Colonel James Wardlaw, Mayor John Coles, and Prince Maurice. Now these names on the monument, if people come here, they see these names, they think these people were here. None of them were here. The fighting around Plymouth was under Colonel William Gould. This man had led the fighting, led the defence of the Lipson Fort and routed the Royalists. Prince Maurice was still suffering from sickness after Dartmouth. He stayed on the other side of the river, and Mayor Coles and Colonel James Wardlaw could not get on during the Civil War. There was a verbal battle between the two for control of the town's forces. Governor Wardlaw should have had control. Mayor Coles wanted control. So these two men were not involved at all. A lot of the soldiers who fought over there and died were badly wounded, were left on the field. Some of them, too badly wounded to be moved right away, were later taken down towards Plymouth. The lightly wounded were already sent down to Plymouth on the day of the battle. So on this morning, if we were here in 1643, we'd be further down. This is behind the lines, Freedom Park.
So where would we be, Phil?
About between 500 and 700 yards beyond Lipson Road as it is today. Over there, those houses, beyond that tree, was the Lipson Fort, the major fort that the Royalists on December the 3rd tried to take. So Colonel William Gould, like I said before when I was talking about the fighting over there earlier, was further down. That's where the fighting took place. Here, we're after the battle. Down there, you would have seen it was cold. Bodies were left on the field. The dead were buried after. The wounded were cared for first. There were people up here, men and women, scavenging the battlefield, looking for souvenirs, for clothing,
But that's
armour.
not here.
No, this is all further down, yeah.
And of course that is called Mount Gould Road today.
Mount Gould Road, named after Colonel William
so
Gould.
even today we remember.
Colonel William Gould, a great character. He was a widower with 2 children, and he came to Plymouth in September 1643 with 600 reinforcements to help the garrison stave off the invasion of Prince Maurice, who had invaded Devon in the summer of 1643 and was coming towards Plymouth after successfully defeating every parliamentarian town in Devon and capturing them. Exeter, Dartmouth, Barnstable, Bideford, all him and his soldiers captured the lot. Plymouth was the last place in Devon holding out. So they tried. Parliament sent reinforcements from London and Portsmouth down this way. Not many. They always sent the sort of second-rate troops. In fact, what they said when Colonel William Gould came to Plymouth, Colonel William Gould arrived in Plymouth with 600 poor boys. That was what they called his regiment. So you had Colonel Gould here fighting that day. Other characters who should be on the monument were people like Captain John Wansley, who led the counterattack at Lara Point Work during the night of December 2nd, 3rd, when the Royalists overran the Lara Point Work. Captain John Wansley was shot out of his horse leading a counterattack and died. And he was a veteran of Roundway Down and Lansdowne, 2 famous battles in the Civil War. He was buried in St Andrews on December the 7th. Thomas Halsey, another captain. A lot of the fighting around the Lara Point Work before they attacked Lipson was done by cavalry. The cavalry tried to counterattack and recapture the Lara Point Work. And there's a number of troopers who were lingered with bad wounds and died between December the 5th and December the 9th. One was called Samuel Caswell, Trooper Samuel Caswell. He was wounded fighting around Lara Point Work. He lingered until the 22nd of December when he was buried, and the council paid £1 towards him for his suffering because he had to be nursed. He died on December 21st and was buried in St Andrew's Church. Another one, Gibbs, he was called Trooper Gibbs from Holsworthy. He was badly wounded in the hand here as a mariner, because Plymouth wasn't really defended by soldiers, but we had a few ships in the harbour here, and we reinforced our lines here with seamen. So there was a man called Horrell, who was a mariner from Plymouth. He lost an arm in the fighting at the Sabbath Day fight. And one of the sad characters is a man called Michael Bloy, a Plymouth man who had a wife and 3 children. He was killed during the fighting around Lipsome Fort, the Battle of Freedom Fields, as people call it today. And he was one of those buried on the site. Nobody knows where he is. His bones are probably there to this day. But it left his wife and 3 children with an uncertain future because they relied on his money. After the war, she got a pension, £4, £5 a year. Not a lot today, but it was quite a bit in those days, and it was a substantial amount to keep them going. Now, the recorded deaths were 12. 12 soldiers died for Parliament. That's an exaggeration. I think it was more up to the 100 mark, because both sides fought hand to hand down there. And like I said, this area would have been quiet. You would have had people coming up here. Women came up here with what was called strong waters for the soldiers. A lot of the women from Plymouth did their bit. They came up here and fed the soldiers. After the fighting here, the soldiers were fed by their wives, and their wounds were bound up. Dead horses would be around here. They were taken away, but they were the last things to be moved. The dead were buried, like I said. The horses were just left there probably, unless someone came and took the hooves, took the horseshoes, took the skins.
Thank you, Phil.
That's all right, Steve. I thought you were going to say something then, sorry.